Hey girl, hey, welcome back to my channel. If you are joining me for the first time, my name is Indiana Tuggle. I am an author, I am a speaker, and I am a journal coach. I am also the owner of Indie Writes, and I create prompted journals to help you heal, grow in Christ, and achieve your dreams. And you can learn more about me and my journals at www.indiewrites.com. Today, I wanted to talk to you about how my healing journey started. Share with you a bit of my own testimony, and it's kind of still, it still kind of chokes me up a little bit. So please bear with me. My healing journey started around 2006, 2007. I had just graduated with my bachelor's degree in social work, and I had just ended a relationship that I was in which I was dating and living with this married man, but I justified it because he was separated and they were separated before he met me. So I kind of justified it in that way. I remember as that relationship ended, and things were going well for a while. I was abstinent. I was still working full time. I had was enjoying my house. I was starting to travel and go on trips more. I was starting to embrace who I was as a single woman, but that abstinence journey turned into a year. It did. A couple of years passed by, and I'm like, well, wait a minute now. What's going on? How long am I going to be single? And I really start to internalize my singleness as punishment. I felt like something was wrong with me that nobody had chose me, right? So everything that I was doing, how I was growing, how I was embracing my single season and really learning to get to know Indiana and love Indiana, that wasn't enough, right? That didn't get me the man.
Are you consumed with worrying about your future, fear of failure, or struggling to overcome past trauma? Jumpstart your self-care routine with intentional journaling. Our journals provide a faith-based approach to help you find your purpose, start your business, achieve physical and emotional wellness, and grow spiritually. Learn more at indiewrites.com.
So I found myself, number one, realizing that, and in my past moments, I had always placed my happiness in others, right? My happiness was in a job, it was in a degree, it was in a house, and then it was in a man, right? And as I continued to achieve those things, it wasn't enough. I continued to search for more. I was continuing on this. Okay, well, what's next? Now that I got this, okay, pause for a minute. I'm still not happy. Now maybe I'll go after something else. And then once I got that, then I was happy as I was going after it in the moment, trying to attain it. But once I got it, it still didn't fulfill me, right? Once I got the degree and I walked across that stage and nobody was in the audience cheering for me, you know, it was like I took a moment and I deflated it, right? Once I got the job and I realized that I didn't know anybody there, that I had no friends, that I had to eat lunch alone in my car, then the job no longer satisfied me, right? Once I got the house and realized that I didn't have enough money to decorate it, then I was no longer happy with the house. Or then once I finally did get the money to decorate it, then I didn't have any friends to invite over. So it was like I was always finding something that made me unhappy with the thing. Once I got the man and I was in the relationship with him, but once the honeymoon phase ended and we go back to work and we settle into each other, and it was no longer exciting and the butterflies were no longer coming and my stomach was no longer doing flip-flops, then I was no longer happy, right? So I had to realize that, Indiana, something is wrong, right? With this picture, you're continuing to place your happiness in somebody else, and it's supposed to come from within. It's not supposed to be constantly changing, right? It's supposed to be something that's in you, something that is totally dependent on you and not somebody else, not something else, not this tangible thing. Your happiness is supposed to be intangible, right?
Are you ready to unleash the power of your pen and write your way to success and wholeness in every area of your life? Our journals help you find your purpose, birth your business, achieve your health goals, grow spiritually, and pursue healing from trauma. Indie Writes began because I saw the impact of intentional journaling on not just my mental and spiritual well-being, but also on my goals and my dreams. I started to question my thoughts and behaviors, seek solutions, and obtain strategies for success in the Word of God. Learn more at indiewrites.com.
And another thing that I realized is that my relationship with my biological dad. 30 years old, I went to the Department of I guess it was the Department of Records, Vital Records, right? I had to go to get a copy of my birth certificate, right? And I needed it because I was going on a mission trip with my church and we was going to Mexico and I didn't have a passport. I hadn't even been on a plane before, less known a passport. So, in my birth certificate that I had one, but that thing was a wrinkle, and I had washed it in the washing machine a couple of times, and you could barely see the writing in it. And when I took it to the postal service, she was like, "Baby, this thing is not gonna hold up, so you probably need to go get another copy." So I go to the Vital Records office to get a copy, and the woman could not find my name in the system. And she was like, "I can't find your name." And then she said, "Well, what's your mother's name?" And then I gave her my mother's name, and then she was able to find it. And she was like, "Oh, your last name is Williams." And I'm like, "Who is that?" "No, that's not my last name." She was like, "Well, this is what it's saying on this." And it was, I said, "When did y'all change that?" And she was telling me when it was changed, and me and her was going back and forth, and all of that. But I ended up getting the birth certificate. Now, mind you, I was no stranger in knowing that the man that raised me was not my biological dad. And the reason that I say I wasn't a stranger is because throughout grade school, my mother never graduated high school. She dropped out in the ninth grade. And so throughout school, since I was about 8, 9 years old, maybe second or third grade, I've always been filling out important documents for my mom. So she would sit and I would read her the questions and she would tell me what to write and how to answer it. So, and when it always came to the schoolwork and when we filled it out and it asked about our parents, my mother never lied to me. She always put, my biological name on my school paperwork. So I had heard his name before. However, I had never met him until we came back to Memphis and I was 13 years old and I actually met him for the first time. It was close to my 13th birthday. Or I can't remember if I was 12 going to turning 13 or if I was 13 turning 14, but I remember it was around about that time. And he came and he promised that he was going to return on my birthday so that we could hang out, go out to dinner, do some type of, general celebration. Well, he didn't show up. And he didn't show up, and I didn't see him again until I was 18, right? Had graduated high school, was on the job, and he popped up at my job. So there was, different, bouts of that relationship with him. And so when I fast forward to 30 years old, so from 18 to 30, I didn't see him again. right? So when I was 30 years old and I left the Department of Vital Records and I went to talk to my mom and I asked her about him, and I was asking her, did she know where he lived or anything about him and this, that, and the other? Because I guess in my mind, it kind of solidified it because the lady at the Vital Records was like, well, they changed your name because apparently it must be on record that this is your father, or something like that. So they changed your name to his last name. So in my mind, I guess that kind of like solidified all the questions. Oh, I guess he is my dad now. So, but when I was asking my mom the questions about him, she was like, I haven't heard from him, shoot, since you heard from him. But I remember his last place of residence, because she used to hang out in that area. So we went to that area, knocked on the door, and he answered the door exactly where she left him. Almost 10, 15 years ago. So that started another identity crisis in me. So now all of a sudden, I don't know who I am. My name is changed. New man in my life telling me, he's supposed to be my dad, and he was making all of these, unnecessary promises to me, and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. And I'm like, bruh, I am 30 years old. That's not what I want from you. And in those moments, I would revert back to that 13-year-old kid, becoming excited because maybe this is an answer to all of my questions, the answer to why I never felt like I fit in growing up, right? The answers to why, maybe I didn't have a good relationship with the man that raised me, why we never really had a deep connection, right? I'm trying to find answers as to, why I don't look like him, things like that I was hoping coming into my mind, but at the same time, hearing him make false promises to me was crushing my spirit like I was 13 years old. So that left another hole in me. At that moment, it was like, Indiana, enough is enough. And ironically, I still went on the mission trip, but within that trip, when we're going to minister to other people, the word and the encouragement and all of that was ministering to me. And God was speaking to me the whole trip, telling me how, to embrace where he's taking me, and he's about to do a new thing in me, and he's going to show me some things. And he had the answers to all of the questions that was going on in my head. And all of this was taking place. And finally, I just really sat down and was like, it was time to take my power back. My happiness, my well-being in other people, and in this biological father. And I had to stop allowing others to control my mood and my emotions, right? And to control my plight and where I wanted to go and who I thought I was, and how I was interacting to people and how I was showing up to people, and all of that. It was like the enemy was trying to strip my identity, but at the same time, God was over here saying, but it's in me. I got you. I'm ready. Will you allow me to complete this work in you? And so I'll end here in saying that if you're on the fence about embarking on your healing journey, about what to expect or what is it going to look like and how long it's going to take, don't allow all of those questions to consume you. Just let it go and allow God to come and draw you, right? The questions are already drawing you, but his loving kindness will draw you even further if you allow him, right? I always tell the story of how I believe God just wooed me. He just drawed me in, so beautifully that I just really have a different perspective of healing, right? It's a beautiful thing to me. It's like finally taking off the scales. It's like finally taking off the costume of life. It's about finally being able to Enjoy life instead of allowing life to control you and take over you. And if you've made it with me this far, make sure you click like, you click subscribe, and you join me back here next week. And I hope that my story was helpful to you. Smooches.